I know you saw the title. I'm gonna cause some problems today. Oh man, happy Tuesday. I haven't been home very long. I had like the final follow up from my little like minor leg surgery that I had. Good news is everything looks good, so that's nice. Nothing scary happened, but it was just kind of like here's continual guidance. They're potentially going to do the same procedure to my other leg, so we have to do some other testing and stuff like that. I was just getting that scheduled. Yeah, fun times. But yeah, so um, I want to go over a couple of things and then I'll talk about my topic. I don't know how long I will rant. I mean, discuss my topic. This might be a rant, but let's see. Some big stuff has happened pretty recently. Many of you know that I work temporarily. I'm on contract, so contracts are always temporary. They're never permanent, right? And granted, the way the world is nowadays, everything feels temporary. But I work for Meta, specifically on their smart glasses. And for those that may or may not know, Meta has this thing that they call Connect, which is their yearly event where they do their big announcements, like whether it's a new product or the big changes they've worked on, etc., etc. Um, and they announced basically like the two products that I have been working on, which is really cool. Um, I can't I can't physically show you devices still as much as I'd love to. Like go, but I'm supposed to be given guidance soon on like the ability to take a device home and like show my friends or something like that, which is kind of neat. Because you know they're new products. They come out in October, so yeah. But if you're interested, the main one that I worked on is what's called Vanguard. But yeah, it's a sport oriented smart glass. It's kind of neat, kind of cool. I think they're the coolest ones that I've had an opportunity to work with so far, just because of comfort level. They're the most comfortable. But that's just I've got a weird face, and like bulky square glasses, which is like very typical in the Ray-Ban style of stuff that's out right now. They don't usually look good on me, or at least I don't think they look good on me. So, and the way they're designed, they slide on my nose a lot because I've got a tiny nose. Oh man. Let's see. So there's that. Well, I'm sure you were all aware of other things that are occurring that basically will not get out of the news cycle. I don't intend to talk about any of that stuff, um, because I don't like violence. Let me put it that way. I'm a very, I cherish life, and regardless of anything, that's the thing I don't like. Right. Anywho, so yeah, it's been a busy week, and despite the fact that we are not at launch of my product yet, we are running around like crazy because launch is coming soon, and we're trying to make sure everything is like nice and buttoned up for our final like patch. You know how it is anything with a computer related nowadays, right? They get everything buttoned up, and then the day that you open it, there's an automatic update. There's things that we have to do for that too, right? So yeah. Do you work on the back end? No, I do not. So for those that might be aware, it's been in the news cycle. There there was a big faux pas with Meta's like AI having some problems functioning correctly at this live demo, and that's kind of the beauty of live demos is that like something inevitably is going to go wrong. It happened almost every time they did a live demo in the past for Apple products. There's some pretty famous ones with Steve Jobs where like something doesn't work quite perfectly and he's just like, well, yeah, that's a live demo for you, right? And I feel like Mr. Zuckerberg did the same thing with our live demo. It's just like sometimes stuff happens. But yeah, no, the I technically work on hardware and software to answer you Aquarium Fun. So like I am testing a physical device on my face constantly. But I'm interacting with a lot of the software and the hardware. So I'm kind of testing both, but not necessarily like the, say, like Meta's AI backend. I interact with Meta AI in some of the work I do, but it's not like I'm responsible for, say, like the AI model or how it functions on the server side. I'm more testing to make sure that, like, if you ask it for like the phone number of the nearest Domino's pizza or something like that, it's not going to just go completely haywire and be like, "Oh, you wanted the phone number of McDonald's, right?" You know, something stupid like that. So that's kind of more the stuff I do. I for my particular product, I'm on what's like called the core team. So we kind of cover everything under the sun on the device, as opposed to the way that most product development like this is. Like, usually you have a kind of a core, like firmware, OS, whatever you want to call it, team, and then you have a bunch of feature teams, and they're really focused on, like, all right, this person does the music streaming that can be connected to the apps. There's a bunch of different music apps you can connect to it, so you can listen to music in your speakers on your glasses and things like that, right? So there's stuff like that, that are controlled by a bunch of like satellite teams that kind of orbit around, and they usually work on, depending on products, like at the case of Meta, they'll work on multiple different versions of the glasses. So, and I'll work on just one because I'm the core team for that specific product. So you have like the Ray-Ban Metas that are currently out. There's also the what's called like Ray-Ban Stories. Those are currently out. And then there's the new ones that are coming. So the core team would work on just Ray-Ban Meta as an example. But then feature teams would do their feature on every glass, whether it's released or unreleased. To kind of explain like basics of how a lot of the product development works for companies like that do multiple products. The same happened at like Amazon as an example, where you're doing, say, like Kindle versus Fire TV, right? Things like that. But yeah, black neon tetras that committed credit card fraud. What? Oh man, I'm vaguely paranoid about that. Whatever you just said, like, sounds like the most AI generated headline known to man. Is life soon to be amazing? Okay, so let me give you an example of something that exists in like current smart glass technology that I think is really cool, and something else that got demoed by Mark Zuckerberg on one of the products that's coming out, which is called the Ray-Ban Meta Display. So it literally has like a display built into one eye of your glasses, and in the bottom corner here, it has a little basically like hologram that the display is that can feed you information. So where that is really cool is in assistive technology. And why, and I know this has nothing to do with fish, but this is me. You guys are used to this by now, right? But so, like, let me give you an example. Let's say that you are hearing impaired. The glasses have a capability to look at somebody and turn on like a focus mode, where it will noise cancel outside noises and focus only on the directional voice of the person you're looking at. And that will increase the audio through your speaker of that person. So it will listen and repeat what they're saying. And at the same time, when you're doing that, the little display that sits here on those glasses will bring up a word for word dub of what they're saying. So it will live translate what they're saying. So they could be talking in Spanish, and if you don't know Spanish, it could translate to English for you. Or if they're in English, it's basically just having a subtitle at all times available in your vision. So if you're hearing impaired, that's a piece of assisted technology that's really cool. There's also this this company called Be My Eyes that Meta has a partnership with. And so what Be My Eyes is basically for visually impaired people. It's a service you can call, and they will describe things around for a visually impaired person. So in the case of our glasses, because there's cameras built into the frame themselves, right? So there's either a camera that sits kind of over here, or it sits right here on the bridge of the nose. It depends on the product. It will activate the camera in the glasses so that the person from Be My Eyes can see exactly what you're seeing if you're a visually impaired person. And then through your speaker that's here on the arm of your glasses, and they have fairly high quality speakers, they can tell you everything you're looking at. So if you're in an area that you're unfamiliar with, and for some reason maybe you don't have whatever assisting aid you have, you could call Be My Eyes, and it will get you in touch with one of their staff or a volunteer, and those people will tell you information to help you navigate to where you need to get to go safely. Those are the parts of like this technology that I am the most excited and like the most. Like those are the things that I really think are cool and are helpful for just making people's lives better. And that's part of why like things like this are why I got into wearable technology in the first place. You guys know for a while I worked for Microsoft on a project, but things like that. So like aquarium fun, that's a cool idea, right? So like an example you could be is eventually you will be able to do, and the glasses can kind of do this already. I did some testing not a while ago, where I was around someone at work had a dog, right? That they'd brought in for a short period of time. And so I basically was asking the AI assistant to tell me, like, hey, what kind of dog is that? Is that this kind of dog? And testing how well it could identify with a camera image what kind of dog was in the office. Which it was a husky, so it was like super easy for the glasses to figure that one out. Kind of cheating. But eventually, like the hope would be that in theory, you could, if you had a pair of those glasses, go somewhere and ask the AI assistant, like, hey, what kind of fish is that? And it would be able to help you identify what it is. Or do things like live sign translations and things like that. Like that's some of the like the long-term goals of technology like this, and why they're building, why Zuckerberg is like so invested in them, among many other reasons, right? Like in theory, the goal is to have your glasses replace your phone, right? So that instead of a big bulky phone that you're carrying, you're just wearing it on your face at all times. And it's more plugged in and handy, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that's what I've been doing at work. Yeah, those are all like cool ideas. I'm sure that inevitably some level of tech will try to do these kind of things. But you got to keep in mind they're going to start at like much bigger. Oh, good. Shantoto wants to say hi. What are you barking at now? Come on. You're fine. I'm gonna poke you. I'm gonna poke you. Okay. Hey, hey, that's enough. Thank you. That's enough. Shani, that's enough. She keeps looking over her shoulder at me and then barking out the window, looking over her shoulder at me like, see, I'm protecting. See, I'm a good protector. Come here. Come here, you silly dog. Come here. You don't need to bark. Oh, shush. Oh, shush. But yeah, so that's some of the stuff I've been working on, and kind of excited because it's been officially announced and soon it will release. But that also means that I've been crazy busy at work. But yeah, such is life, right? All right, I want to get into our topic because I spent way too much time on that, and so I'm going to have to make this shorter. It's a little bit of a rant, and it's a little bit of not a rant. I've watched a lot of aquascaping related content over my time being back in this hobby. And my title is very accurate. What I love and hate about aquascaping. So aquascaping is part of what brought me back to this hobby, but not because I wanted to do aquascaping itself, but just because I liked the concept of live plants and nature within a tank that I really didn't get to do when I was a kid with fish. And I've had a very bad history of like being good at keeping terrestrial plants, so I kind of wanted to take a challenge, and I wanted to have a fish tank again, and so I wanted to have a planted tank. And I watched all sorts of aquascaping videos, and as I've played with plants and got used to them and kind of mastered certain things and failed relentlessly at other things, I've come into this really like love-hate relationship with aquascaping. I love some of the artistic and beautiful things that aquascapers create. I have seen, whether it's the IAPLC or even just some of my friends doing aquascapes, um, or someone like MD Fish Tanks as an example, or George Farmer or Uris, all these wonderful YouTube people who do aquascaping. You get to see all this cool stuff. But outside of George Farmer, I have a serious problem with aquascapers and aquascaping in general. And my problem is this: aquascaping is almost it's never set up to be a long-term aquarium. Very frequently, aquascapes are designed to be up for like 6 months to a year tops. And a lot of it is because of the amount of work that requires to make them sustainable. And honestly, just like when you're pouring ridiculous amounts of nutrients and CO2 into a tank, you run an insanely high risk on top of the amount of extra maintenance you need to do of inevitably causing some kind of problem in your fish. And that's one of the things that, like, to me, is failing miserably at part of what the aquarium hobby is supposed to be. And Stephen P., I think you have a part there in saying influencer culture, because there are people who have had aquascapes set up for a long period of time. We could look at some of the things that like Amano did as an example. Like his home tank is kind of famous, and it's been the same for a long period of time. But it requires an insane amount of maintenance to keep it like really, really clean and nice. And I think what aquascaping represents is this beautiful, like, gallery level showroom kind of thing that can attract a lot of people to the hobby. But I think a lot of the difficulties that come along with aquascaping and learning how to keep that density of plants healthy while also not doing things so over the top that it then risks your fish's health is actually really bad for people entering the hobby. And I probably have a lot of confirmation bias here, but I've had so many people over and over and over again give me comments about how they've tried to aquascape and they failed, and they fail over and over and over again, and they're thinking about quitting the hobby and they need help. And what I tend to find is that, like, you're playing this. Aquascaping encourages people to play this level of the game, so to speak, where you're turning all the settings to max instead of learning the basics first. Like, how would you keep a low demand, low tech tank? As I hit my water cup over here. And here's a great example from Zach. My mistake was putting rocks too close to the glass. Permanent algae. Yeah, you can get like basically a permanent algae you can't ever take care of. But a little bit of algae in your aquarium is not a problem. And I think that's one of the other things that aquascaping stigmatizes algae so hard. Like, if your rocks don't look perfect and immaculate all the time, like, you'll see so many places that are like, get out your toothbrush, start cleaning every other day, and I think that's one of the things that it creates this negative bias toward nature. You are never going to win the war against algae. You can only minimize the amount of algae that is visible in your aquarium. There will always be some amount of algae somewhere. Because if you're keeping something where algae can't grow, nothing can grow. Algae is an extremely simplified organism, and it can survive in places that basically nothing in the rest of the hobby that we care about, whether it's plants, fish, etc., can survive. Now, can you have minimal amounts of algae on your hardscape? Yeah, and that's perfectly healthy. And I think there's a problem, and this is one of the things that I hate about aquascaping, is it seems to, with rare exception, over-stigmatize by trying to get that one perfect immaculate picture or that one perfect video as opposed to creating something that is sustainable and long term. Because in the end, we should, as aquarists, I would hope at least, go into a mentality of when we're selecting fish for one of our aquariums, that aquarium and those fish are going to be roughly that way for many years, right? I mean, at least 3 or 4, depending on the fish you're keeping, because some fish do have shorter lifespans, think guppies and tetras. They don't live crazy long, but they at least live 3 to 5 years typically, depending on the species, of course. And one of the things that, like, I hate to rag on him because he's such a nice guy, and I really like a lot of his content. But like someone like MD Fish Tanks, where you see him doing a new tank like 3 times a week, it feels like. Well, it's impossible to keep a tank long enough to know whether you've actually done it right. Whether you've created, and this will tie into something else in a second, but whether you've created this biome, so to speak, this living piece of nature in glass or acrylic in your home. Because one of the things, if you were to go on YouTube, especially for those of us who are on the creator side and we can use like some of YouTube's tools on the back end for inspiration, as they like to call it, or basically research of the things that a lot of people are searching for. There are a lot of things looking for these, like, not necessarily biotope, I want to be very clear, but like creating these natural biome type aquariums that are aquascaped. And those, to me, fight each other. Aquascaping wants to control the chaos that nature is, where a biome is letting the chaos do its thing. Nature is an incredibly powerful thing, and it does all sorts of stuff. And you can't control it. You can only influence it. Where aquascaping basically wants, and Yu's putting this very well, aquascaping should be looked at like a Zen garden. Creating a Zen garden is a meditation of your garden, which is a meditation of your soul. I agree with that in the sense that it is, aquascaping is a thing that is very controlled, and you're trying to, much like bonsai, control the growth in a way that you find aesthetically pleasing, or that someone else you think will find aesthetically pleasing, in the case of people who do aquascapes for other people. Stephen P's got the solution. Have both types of tanks, everything in between. Enjoy the whole hobby. No. I understand, and I've done this, right? Like the Fallen Forest is kind of an example of this, of where we started with an aquascape, right? We put some hardscape in place, and then put a bunch of plants and really just let nature do its thing from there. Certain plants have done phenomenally well, other ones have not, because that's nature. But we can control it a little bit by pruning, and yeah, we clean the algae off the front glass, or at least we should, so we can see those wonderful, wonderful fish that are inside. But I think aquascaping, to me at least, and this is where I hate aquascaping, is it creates an illusion of something that can misinform people that don't know better. Or it creates a mentality that all those fish, those little tiny living jewels, as my friend Jason loves to call them, are just a product and a commodity and not something in our care. When we refer to taking care of any form of animal, there's typically the term husbandry, and Laura brought this up earlier. That means that they are in our care, not that they're some product, some commodity, something to be just tossed aside when we've gotten bored with them. Some people do this, yes. But I think that's one of the things that is possibly the most potentially destructive part in this portion of the hobby. Think about all of those people who adopted dogs or cats during COVID. And then when they had to go back to work, or when life started getting busy and the world wasn't completely closed down, all of a sudden they started taking all of those animals who had bonded with them, who had lived with them, who had, in their minds, thought they had this wonderful home. And now they're being taken back to a shelter. That's not husbandry. That is not taking care of this little life. And you could maybe argue that that's an extreme version of looking at the pet trade, right? But that's how I see it. Because I'm a big frickin' softy. And deep down, one would argue, I'll say this, one would argue I made a massive mistake years ago getting my 2 girl dogs when I already had my boy Corgi, and knowing that I was working as much as I was on site. But it's like my girlfriend at the time, now wife, was going to be home, so she'd be around. And they had that big fight, and now they couldn't all be in the same room together, right? And so now there's this like stress of having each dog kind of sequestered in a different portion of the home. And in the back of my head, right, there was that thought, did I make a massive mistake because I'm a big softy and just wanted my little pack of corgos rolling around doing corgi things, barking at everything, being adorable. But deep down, knowing who I am as a person, had I like chose to surrender them, and I considered it very briefly because I'd only had them for like a week when the first big fight kind of broke out, because I knew there were other people who wanted to adopt some of these dogs, right? It was the only reason I thought about it for a half second, because they were basically on like a waiting list. And so in that regard, it was like, there are good homes. But deep down, I know now, especially in hindsight, how much emotional value I would have lost in my life. Because right now, despite the fact that she was barking out the window, she's curled up on top of my feet. And to me, it's one of the cutest things in the world. Every time I feel this little girl spin her circle and plop on top of my feet when I'm at my desk, whether I'm video editing, whether I'm doing just gaming, the rare times I get to do that, or, I'm here doing a live stream with you folks, it always puts like this slight feeling of, yeah, all is right in the world. I don't need anything more. This is right in the world. And I feel that things like aquascaping, this very controlled sense of the hobby, takes away from that magic. Yeah, I'm going to circle it back, talking about dogs into fish. I'll find a way. I'm occasionally clever. And let me explain. I think I talked last week about like there's this magic in raising rainbow fish to me, where when this color starts to come in, it's a very wonderful time, because the first few specks on one fish, and not far down the line, they're all going to be colored up. And that instant transition, seemingly in comparison to the amount of time it takes for rainbows to go from silver minnow to colorful tiny rainbow fish, is like magic. And I feel like by aquascaping very heavily, and I'm sure plenty of people will be like, well, that's what I love about the hobby, so F you, Bentley. And you're perfectly in your right to do that. But I feel like by controlling nature so heavily, you are losing the magic that is keeping nature in a glass box full of water. You're trying so hard to control it that you are losing the majesty of what nature actually is. It is wild. It is chaotic. And yet, It is strangely mathematical and patterned. It is predictable, and yet it is chaos. And that strange balance of crazy is something that I feel like you don't even really understand in the first 6 months of owning a tank. And most aquascapers break their tanks down in 6 months. Especially on the YouTube side. Probably a little different for those of you who'd like to aquascape at home, and I respect you. Think of your George Farmers of life who have had the same tank for years on end and done minimal changes to it. And I think those are the people that I aspire to be able to do work like they do, which is that add that little bit of art, but still let nature be magical. Basically what I'm saying is George Farmer is perfect, and I love that man. Because he's the one that's cracked the real code. He's the one that's cracked the real code. Everybody else who does aquascaping, they're missing the real magic. But at least that's my opinion. You might feel otherwise, and you are welcome to do so. You, professional aquascapers, especially in competition, have a tendency to be very vague for a reason. They're not into educating. Well, I think they're very good at educating about the technique around making an aquascape aesthetically pleasing, or why certain decisions look good and other decisions do not. And I'll take this, I'm going to pull a Corey. I'm going to give you an analogy that has nothing to do with aquariums, but might explain this, what I'm trying to say. You have in film some phenomenal filmmakers that have this incredible, expansive knowledge about what they're doing. Think about folks like Ridley Scott, and this is whether or not you like their films, but they understand the art and techniques of filmmaking and where to use them and why you use them. Steven Spielberg is probably the most obvious example of this, like, titan of the industry who knows how to create technical and visually artistic magic. Scorsese, another great example. Aquarium Fun, thank you. Right, these are, and you could even go to like someone like, say, Spike Lee, who's kind of on the outside of Hollywood, but still makes these technically brilliant films. And then you have someone like Michael Bay. Michael Bay has made a bunch of insanely popular films. And if you've ever seen interviews with him, especially analyzing film, he can't tell you why a particular shot or scene and why the camera work in that scene is particularly well on a technical level. But he can identify every time why this was a good shot. And that this is a good shot versus they should have done something different here. Because he knows what he's looking for and what creates something evocative. But from a technical perspective, he's not the technical mastermind that, say, Stanley Kubrick is. Akira Kurosawa is. These, like, legendary level auteurs, right? We'll get fancy with our words there. But these true artists who understand both the technical and artistic side and are able to fuse it at will because they have that magic. But Michael Bay still probably made more money than any of them. That dude has made some loot. Except maybe like Spielberg. That guy's made a ridiculous amount of money. But that's how I feel aquascaping is. Aquascapers are Michael Bay. They might not be able to explain precisely why the plants are healthy or what makes the plants do their best. But they can look at a plant and know that that's what you want to see. Look how dense the foliage is. Look at the coloration. Look at the pearling. Look at this. Look at that. That's what you want to see. They know how to put things in these beautiful artistic ways, and they understand the technique of creating an aquascape and what is visually appealing. But they might not know whether or not that is best for the fish, or whether that's even best for the plant themselves, right? That's my take. For those who are joining a little late, welcome, welcome, welcome. Short answer to this rant we've gone on. Aquascapers are missing the magic that is nature. And though I love the artistic things they can create, they're missing something. So yeah. Why does this guy look like he samples all the fish food before he feeds? Oh, Donovan, that's a fat joke. Oh, you're so clever, Sparky. Let me ask you a serious question, Donovan, and I hope you answer it, because guess what? I'm not going to ban you. I'm not even going to time you out. You want to know why? Because people like you never bother me. Let me ask you this. What is it that is missing in your life that makes you feel like the best part of your day, or a good part of your day, is to insult someone and to bring them down, as opposed to go, I have a question. Why do you see this? Why do you choose to do this thing? Because you want to learn, you want to explore. Be curious. Don't know if you've ever heard that quote before. That's from Walt Whitman. You've probably never asked why I choose the fish food I choose, or why I am the way I am. Maybe I have a medical condition, or maybe just when I'm stressed, people like you are dickheads, and people like me are quiet, and we do something else to comfort ourselves. Or maybe we have leg issues that we've recently had surgery for that make it hard to be as active as other people are. So answer me that, Chief. Oh, whoa. Buddy, I hate to break it to you, but I've basically been raised on the fires of the deepest, darkest effing internet there is. Like, I'm sure you don't know what 4chan is. Brother, I've been there for years. You can't bother me. Because for every one of you, there are 100 wonderful people in this community. They make my day once a week. Easily. People like you try to tear one person down. I have the opportunity in this platform to help someone learn a life lesson when it comes to a hobby they care about. I have the ability to help someone fix a problem and find success. What can you do? Nothing. Bye bye. Go on. You aren't going to bother me, son. But I'll teach you some life lessons if you want to listen. Go get a fish tank. Find your peace. Because if you can't find your peace, you're just going to be an angry little man for the rest of your life. And I pity you. Now, for the rest of these wonderful people, happy to. Oh no, internet, don't buffer on me. Don't do it. I see it loading in one place. I hope it's not me. Hope it's not. I don't boot most of these people. You want to know why? Usually they shut up really fast if they realize that they can't get to the person they're trying to mess with. They go away on their own. Water. Turns out it's wet. Okay. Yeah, there's some buffering happening in my like YouTube studio as opposed to my normal software that all my stuff looks correct. I can't wait. I'm supposed to have. I'm on a list for whenever a fiber company finally comes through my neighborhood, and I cannot wait to get off Comcast. I'm playing. I'm just sitting here praying day by day for blessed, blessed fiber, and I'm not a religious person, but I pray for the fiber. Oh Lord. Uh, Cat Ferris, thank you so much. Like I do my best. I try to help people as much as I can. It's just it's one of the things that I love about this hobby is our ability to help each other. Stephen P, yeah, you can do whatever you want now, buddy. I'm done. He's probably gone, or he's sitting there going like, "What do you mean making fun of the fat guy didn't make him angry? My tiny tiny brain can't comprehend why. Why can't I bully the person? It don't make no sense. I don't understand. Huh?" You know, one of my favorite things in life to do is bully bullies. Yeah. Sounds so familiar. It's just me being an idiot aquarium fun. It's just me being a dummy. I don't know. I look at the glass that is life a lot different than most people. I would rather be a rising tide. Yeah. For those who've never seen it, I actually want to bring up that there is a great one. It comes from the show Ted Lasso. It's probably the best version of the like the Walt Whitman quote. The actual quote itself is "Be curious, not judgmental." For those who are really curious about what it is and what that means, but there's this fantastic scene. For those that might not know, like Jason Sudeikis, who used to be from SNL, but he's in a show called Ted Lasso, which is like this really lighthearted, wonderful show about an American football coach teaching soccer in England. And it all comes from some like joke commercials he did back in the day. But there's a particular scene where he breaks out the "be curious, not judgmental" scene and kind of breaks it down what it means from a like fictitious, from the character's perspective, of course, like life experience of his, and it resonates very closely with like who I am and what my mentality of life has always been. But yeah, yeah. Stephen P. Oh, brother. That's part of why I love you, man. You are hilarious. After all my decades on Earth, absolutely dominating anorexia, I do not mind an original, clever fat joke. They're just rare. Oh, Lord. I mean, when you get one, they're good, though, right? You don't get them very often. They're all dummies, you know? Or it's like the old Yo Mama jokes from like the late 80s, early 90s. But yeah, yeah, I don't know. Oh, Lord. All right, let's get back to fish. Fish is more fun. I swear I missed something earlier. Oh, Omar did say it depends on the scape, and I agree with you. Certain scapes, like, and I'll use that George Farmer example, is that, like, some people do set up a scape for long term. George Farmer is one of those people, and they do the meticulous work to make it look amazing, and he even shows his maintenance, which I respect. But most aquascaping has that mentality of short term, and that's something that I feel like you lose the magic of nature living in that short term. Stunnyscape, Scaperling from Germany. Well, then it's crack the code. So many incredible. I will look this person up for my own amusement later. Assuming, hopefully, I can find it because initial search YouTube is like nah, but maybe not on YouTube. So Stunnyscapes, if you know their at for their channel, like feel free to drop it or to shoot me an email if you got like a if it's Instagram or something like that. Like feel free to drop me an email because I'm totally down to check it out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just don't have patience for people like that. Most people don't. Like most people initially just like quick reflexively do the band hammer. For me, how do I put this? I really enjoy putting people like that in their place, because often, at least in my experience, most of the time I've dealt with anybody who like swings to the negative and likes to insult people, they're actually mentally in such a bad place in life that they have nothing good going for them. And when you can calmly address that directly, they kind of wither and fall apart. Like, you saw two things from that guy. Two, and then dead silence, because he realizes, one, he's fighting somebody he can't win against. Because he wants to bring me down to a level that I'm never going to go down to. I'm going to high road him by kicking him straight in the balls with a verbal assault on why his negative laugh approach is dog shit. I bully bullies. It's the only time that I get a little bit mean. If you're a jackass first, I am the bigger bully. Physically, too. See, that's the thing. A lot of us big people, self-denigration humor is our life. It's part of how we cope. And that's how we make ourselves protected against idiots like that. Or how we've learned to get beyond those things ever hurting us. And yet, dopes like that. I thought you were actually kind of nice to them. Oh yeah, I wasn't truly mean. But sometimes when you point out to somebody, how bad must your life be to where your highlight is trying to tear someone down? He's probably a monster fish keeper. I know a guy like that. He's out in Nova Scotia. Oh, I will never have a collab with that guy ever, because I will probably just talk too much trash. Ah, Lord. There's few people I'll ever be directly, how should we put this? Impolite to. That's one. Ah, Lord. Okay. Oh, cyberbully the bullies. Tank Talk podcast this week. We're talking about trying fish food. Just a little pinch. It was very funny. I'm not surprised. Like, I have friends that will like literally try their different fish foods as they buy them, and I mean, most of it is not going to do any damage to you. I'm just like, the most I ever do is smell my fish food, because usually if it's extra stinky, it's great for fish, right? Stinky things, fish love that stuff. I'm not looking to eat fish flake anytime soon. It doesn't sound remotely interesting to me. Color me weird, I guess, that I don't want to eat my fish food. I'll eat human food instead. Have you been to Takashi Amano in 88 in Japan? No, I haven't. I've never been to Japan. So, by proxy, can't have been there. I would love to, don't get me wrong. Although, realistically, if I could go to Japan, I want to go to all the koi farms. Because it's just like, especially when you have, because many of the koi farmers speak English fairly well, the ability to just sit and absorb information as to like why they do the things they do, or at least what they're willing to tell you, or like why they only breed a particular type of fish, because some of these farms are known for like one or two types of koi and that's it, right? Like, where does that decision come from, and why do they never want to, is it purely the like Japanese way of doing things? You think about like some of the fruit vendors and things like that build all these wonderful like ridiculously high quality fruits that are given as gifts, right? Think about like some of that stuff. You've all definitely seen this stuff in Japan, right? And Japan is like crazy about some of these things, and I love that. Is it just the mentality of like that is part of Japanese culture, or is it just like, no, like legitimately these are the ones that we love that much? Things like that. I've tried a milk bone. It wasn't very tasting, quite boring. Boring flavor. Why do dogs like them? Uh, Great question. Because they're dogs. Many dogs will eat anything. Especially corgis are so food motivated. They'll eat everything under the sun. They're like little vacuum cleaners, man. They're so focused on symbolism, balance, and spirit. Yeah, I mean, like there is a there is a beauty in being so dedicated, and this goes way back to like feudal Japanese mentality and Bushido and things like that. There is an incredible beauty in being so dedicated and focused on one craft to a level that takes it beyond anyone else, right? You think about like the people that just make like Suma E ink as an example. There's like three or four people that can do it at a general place, and yet they're such master craftsmen that they're like, oh yeah, no, you probably can't really move to this position in the company unless you've done X position for like 10 years. You know, there's a thing about sushi chefs where you're not ready to be a sushi chef until you've basically washed rice for like 10 years. And it's like everywhere in sushi. This mentality of like you don't truly understand how to do the rice right until you've done it for such a long period of time that it is second nature. And that you don't need to like measure things anymore. You just know. Right? Or carpentry, that's a great example. Like Japanese carpentry is so like tradition, especially traditional Japanese carpentry, is so different than Western carpentry. And it's probably in the most like natural way you could possibly do carpentry, where it's interlocking things as opposed to like nails into boards most frequently, right? And building these things that naturally come together and form this powerfully rigid structure, but it has just the right amount of flex. So like these things can that's why so many of the ancient castles and temples and things have survived like earthquakes and all sorts of other things, is because the way that they build them compared to say like Western building standards, they just are more naturally tolerant of these crazy things. The big thing is not koi, it's Medaka in Japan. I mean, there's a lot of koi farms in Japan. There's some big boy koi farms in Japan that win massive awards all the time. One of like the main koi judges in the entire world is not far from me, and he goes to Japan like multiple times a year. So like, there's still plenty of koi, but yeah, rice fish are a big thing, right? But yeah, I don't know. I grew up with koi, and I have a love of koi. It's why that's like diamond painting is behind me here that my mom made for me. I love koi. I just don't have the way that I would want to keep koi correctly. I want a big F-all pond, and I can't afford to build that in my house right now because they're very expensive if you want to build a really nice one. If I had that like ridiculous amounts of money, I would probably build literally like $1 million pond in my house. Just absolutely badass insane. So, you know, when I win that lottery, eventually you'll see a pond video. Koi with rice fish? I mean, in theory, yes, you could. Or you could do them in separate ponds that are interconnected. Right? You could have the rice fish further up to keep them safe from the koi. Because sometimes koi or carp, they will eat other fish. You know, carp eat a lot of stuff. But yeah, all right. Let's see here. Omar, is really beautiful part of their culture, or it's really part of their culture. I think it's beautiful. They obsess over whatever they do. Yeah, it's very much part of it's centuries of part of that culture, and it's part of why like there is a demand for excellence and quality over there that like especially us in the States like have no clue of what that's like. It's just like cheap stuff over there doesn't do well, you know, except cheap food. But then that's more like, it still has to be good. That's the crazy thing, is like you can go to a 7-Eleven in Japan and get good, not really nice, but still good, especially by American standards, quality sushi. as an example. This thing has to say very fresh. You can get good quality sushi at a 7-Eleven. I don't know about you. I would never trust. Granted, I don't eat fish in the first place, but like if I did, I would never trust sushi at a convenience store. And yet in Japan, it's good. It's crazy. Japan's like such a wild cultural place. One day I want to go there. One day. But I've got other things I need to do first. So yeah. Oh man. I'll make sure I didn't miss a question. We've been kind of like wild and free this evening, so I appreciate you all for letting me just go completely unhinged. We might have a more proper full rant coming soon for you members. I've been convinced by the last time we had that somebody got me into the rant space. We might have some crazy proper rants coming for members because they won't necessarily be fish related, and so I don't want to put them on the main channel. But yeah, and for like the 4 people on Patreon, you'll get that too. Don't worry. I guess if people are in the membership are like feeling really generous, they'll basically be unlisted videos instead of like members only because I want to make sure that if you find something particularly interesting and a friend that isn't a member wants to see it, you can just share it with them. I'm fine with that. I don't care. Omar, they have this philosophy called ikigai, which roughly translates to reason for being. Yeah. So small factoid, and then I'll get pick and choose. It's a great name. I love your name, pick and choose. I'll get to your question real fast in a sec. So especially in high school, I studied quite a bit of like Japanese history. Now I've forgot a lot of it. I want to be very clear. Like I'm an old man, only so much stuff fits in this old noodle up here. But there's a lot of things in like, especially Japanese feudal history and the general like ways that those historical culture portions have influenced. I almost said infected. Influenced modern day Japanese culture are things that I found really, really interesting, especially in high school and like early college. So I kind of have a reasonable grasp of a lot of like historical Japanese things. Also, I'm a giant anime nerd, so clearly because I watch anime, I know everything there is to possibly know about Japan. I know people who are like that, like they just watch anime and they don't learn anything about the history or anything like that, but they think they know everything about Japan. And it's like, if you don't live there and speak the language, you don't know anything about Japan. Let's be fair. You can understand the history a little bit, but we really don't know anything. That's like thinking that The Last Samurai is a historical documentary. All right? I love Mighty Orbots, Voltron, and Ghibli. Does that count? You now know everything about Japan. Congratulations. Oh, Lord. Okay. Let's talk about test strips for a sec for you, pick and choose. You're a beginner. Are test strips brands really that different? Kinda, sorta. So what I have found is that the like Tetra test strips and the ones that are similarly manufactured, because what happens is there's really only like 3 or 4 companies that manufacture like all the test strips that are out there, and then the liquid kits are really only done by like 2 different companies in the grand scheme of things. They're basically all made in China, almost all of them. And there's kind of like 2 major types that are out there. One is not very accurate. Let me give you an example of one of those. Hold on, I'll use my good friend over here, the Amazons. Because you can literally look at them and know what they look like and know that they're the ones that suck. I should feel bad about saying that, but I really don't. Most of them are the ones that have like non-coherent names. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Starting to find some. So like the ones that Tetra makes and Aquarium Co-ops are fairly close in reliability, are relatively reliable. So like any of the test strips that look kind of like this, these are ones that are okay. I'm gonna be very clear. but you can physically look at them. So like this is the JNW one as an example. It's their like 9-in-1. But if you just look at like how they're literally physically built and the coloring that they use in their testing, they're basically the same chemical makeup that is the Tetra strip. I would argue that if you're going to buy any strip, Tetra is the most accurate outside of a liquid test kit. Now, then you've got stuff like this. And these things, there's a bunch of them that look like this. There's a few that have, they're almost all like using blue coloration, right? There's ones like this. This it's just generically called 8-in-1. Like how terrible is that? But you can see where it's just like only yellow and blue colors in their testing. Where you'll notice like the Tetras have like a pink for their nitrates and kind of a green and a blue and a purple and things like that that test all the individual things. These are the ones that tend to be the least accurate. They tend to screw up the most, misread quite often, etc. And by the way, FTC, just so that you're happy real fast, we're going to get over the disclosure. The links that I have provided to you in chat are Amazon affiliate links, and I am an Amazon affiliate, which means that I can earn a commission for qualifying purchase you make using those links. Please, FTC, I cannot afford the fine. I have done the needful. Please leave me alone. But yeah, those are affiliate. Those are paid links. I got to do it, or they can literally fine me 50 grand. 50 grand. TV and Hollywood can do all sorts of sponsored stuff and disclose nothing. YouTube idiots like me, every time we put a link somewhere, we have to have a disclosure, and if we don't, we can be fined 50 freaking grand. And I think they actually upped that at one point, that it might actually be like 200 grand. It's a lot, and it sucks. So yeah, there's my disclosure. But yeah, in general, the closer it looks to like the Tetra test strip, probably the more accurate it is, because they're probably using the same base manufacturer. Right? Tetra uses a manufacturer, and that manufacturer will sell to many, many people. So there's that. A heads up. Now you know. In general, is there such a significant difference between a liquid test kit and a test strip that makes it matter? Not really. Honestly. If you really want to get hyper accurate, you have to get into something like a photospectrometer or something like that. But yeah. The real problem you're going to run into inevitably is just reading the color differences. That's the long-term actual problem, is that like they can be confusing because they look so similar. But once you get used to them, it's pretty easy to get enough of a ballpark to understand whether your tank's in good shape or whether you need to do a water change or some other kind of adjustment. So I hope that helps you pick and choose your test kit. I know. Terrible joke. Terrible. And it's okay. That's just who I am. Oh, you admit it, you're an otaku like me? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Opinion on digital testers. It's really easy for them to go out of sync and you have to recalibrate them a lot. But they are the most accurate, assuming you keep them calibrated. So like as an example, something like an Apex controller in the saltwater world will give you phenomenal data, but you have to go through and regularly make sure that they're calibrated. And as long as they stay calibrated, they're great. There's lots of digital test toys out there. As long as you have them calibrated, they work well. I used to keep a TDS meter and a couple of other like digital testers. And then eventually I just got so used to my water that I kind of didn't need them anymore. And I could be just as safe with test strips. And the test strips were cheap, simple, and I didn't have to calibrate them like every 2 times I used the dang thing. Why can't we test potassium with a liquid test or strip, but Europe can? There is probably some chemical that is in the potassium kit that the United States says is a big no-no, but Europe says is okay. It's kind of like if you remember during COVID, there was that big problem with baby formula, and a bunch of people were trying to get baby formula in from the EU that arguably goes through stricter standards than the US baby formula does, but because it contained one thing that the FDA was like, yeah, we're not so keen on that, it was considered banned in the United States. So people were having to do all this like hoopla to get them into the States because there was a shortage of baby formula because there's a conglomerate of different companies that have, effectively speaking, a monopoly in the States and work with the FDA. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I start going down the conspiracy realm? It's like money influences things. It's very frustrating. I'm sure there's probably a way to get them shipped to the United States if you're like clever in a roundabout way. Some of those companies do not check and will ship them from Europe. You're just going to pay a premium. It's my 2 American pesos on that one. All right, Mike. That's why I have my wife read the color tests. No joke. just to read the tests on your aquariums. It's the only reason why you're married, right, Mike? It's nothing to do with anything else whatsoever. She's only there to spot the differences in the colors for your testing on your aquariums. And if so, that is an incredible level of dedication to testing your aquarium, and I respect it. Oh Lord. Ooh, John. Hey, buddy. My favorite koi YouTube channel is the Koi Partner. You get you really get a behind the scenes of the Japan farms and learn a ton. I haven't checked him out. I'll have to check him out. Unfortunately, like the person that which is Pan Intercorp, which is the local koi.com, they're the ones that are like really, really, really well respected in the koi world. He did a little bit of content for a short period of time, like just basically kind of stopped. But that guy knows like so much, it's crazy. But yeah. I had to put up with my crap and try buying a medical potassium kit instead. Oh, that's actually not a bad idea. Medical potassium kits you probably could still use to test your aquarium water. That's a smart idea, Mike. Smart idea. All right, gang. Let me make sure I didn't miss any questions. I don't think I did. I think I got them all. Sponsored by Famous Brand Datu. Yeah, jeez. No, I'm not sponsored by anybody. Although I do have I have a lot of work to do when it comes to lights here very, very soon. I have to finish the last bits of my testing with the Aquasky, move on to the Fool plants, and start testing that and get videos up and all that kind of stuff. So lots of stuff coming. I want to thank you all for being here with me, listening to my various rants. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week. I see my cousin in chat. Good to see you, cousin. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching. And stay awesome. Oh, hold on. Mike's got a question, and I'll answer it. What is the number one thing you love the most about the aquarium hobby? You. Serious. You. This community and the wonderful people that are in it. Because even if you love cichlids or you love monsterfish, well, maybe not those monsterfish people, they're kind of jerks. Whether you guppies, rice fish, koi, rainbow fish idiots like me, plecos, whatever it is, no matter what you love the most about the hobby, when you meet someone else who's in the hobby, it doesn't matter what they love. It just matters that you both love the hobby. And you can talk endlessly to each other about fish. The people in this hobby are what I love the most about this hobby. So there you go. Why I go to fish conventions when I can is just so I can sit and babble about fish with wonderful people like you. That's what I love about this hobby. Like, comment, subscribe. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome. I have to go have dinner with my wife before she tries to kill me. See you, gang. I'll see you next week.